everyone. Today I have with me author Jenni L. Walsh, and Jenni's debut book is Becoming Bonnie. I'm trying to get the glare out of it, Jenni, but I love the cover. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
When I found this book, I think I found it in a new releases, and I was instantly drawn to it. Of course, I'm a cover person anyway, but I was like, I don't know anything about Bonnie and Clyde, so I was like, I want to know. I love reading things that I don't know about. And I didn't realize how much fiction you had put into it but I really like your last chapter when you straighten it out for everybody. When you kind of tell what you told. But historical fiction is so much fun. And even though you did change a couple of things, you still had to research. You still had to put yourself in her shoes. And I just want to know, what made you think of her? What drew you to Bonnie?
So I wanted to write historical fiction. That's typically what I read.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, it's fun. I like, escaping into a different era and experience it. So yeah, it's really fun for me to read. So I wanted to write about it as well. And I wanted to do an iconic figure because I personally like the inspired by or based on story. So I had a very strong idea of what I wanted to do, and I wanted to write about a woman. So it's just a matter of putting all those pieces together and figuring out which woman that was. And my husband, Matt, is a huge history buff. So that helps.
Right, that helps a lot.
Yeah, we were brainstorming one day about what I could potentially write about. And I'm not sure who brought it up, but we were speaking about the 1967 Bonnie and Clyde film. And I had seen it at some point, 10 or 15 years ago. It's been a long time.
Right.
My strongest recollection of the film wasn't the violence, although I'm sure there was a lot of violence in the film. It was this loyalty and devotion that Bonnie and Clyde had to each other. And it made me really curious, what made Bonnie tick. Clyde too, but more so Bonnie. I wanted to tell it in her voice. So curious, how this girl was willing to leave her life and her family behind for someone who was a convicted felon. So I think it takes, a special person to do that, and special circumstances, I should say. So I was really curious about her backstory and how she got to this point.
Right. And she does, like I said, I knew nothing about it. I didn't even see the movie. Okay. I heard about the movie, and when I looked it up, I was like, how did I not see this movie? Because I really wanted, that would have been something I would have wanted to see. But for, it just slipped through the cracks. But I did watch, after I read your book, in preparation for this, I watched a documentary on it. And actually a couple of really cool ones that are on YouTube. And you really did bring her to life because there isn't that much about her.
Exactly.
There's a lot about him, but there isn't that much said about her. And your writing, you are a fantastic writer.
Oh, thank you.
You had me hooked, from page one. And I was like, and at the time I'm thinking that the way you did it in her voice just really brought her to life and her transformation. And whether or not, I don't know, how big of a transformation did she have from her youth? It seemed like it was huge.
Yeah, in real life, it's hard to tell. Like you said, there really, really wasn't much known about her past. So I took whatever I could find and used them as guideposts, and then kind of just filled in the rest with my imagination and what I wanted the story flow to be. But in my story, I hope there's a very big evolution. I even changed her name, as you probably saw at the beginning, to Vanna Lynn, because I wanted something very wholesome sounding, like someone that sits at a church pew every week and sings in the choir. I'm hoping that comes across as someone who, a good girl. And then I also wanted to show her full evolution with her real life relationship prior to Clyde, which is Roy Thornton. So I wanted to tell that full story arc because I think it really sets up my Bonnie's mindset and acceptance of Clyde when he finally enters the picture. So I hope in my version there's a very large evolution. I don't know in real life what that evolution quite was. I do know that she was a straight A student. She did spelling bees, which she had won, beauty pageants, talent shows. She sang at church. So she definitely has all the elements in real life that I had worked into becoming Bonnie, but I'm just not really sure her exact evolution.
And yeah, interesting, because that's what I was getting from your book. I was thinking, and even the documentaries that I saw on her, I don't think you were that far off on who she was. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I got more from the documentary was how they made Roy to be. You know, you were very light on Roy compared to, like, I guess who he was. You know, like, in the beginning, you really like him. Of course, towards the end, you don't like him so much. But, you know, it seems like she was always searching for that spark. You know, he was a safe bet for her.
Yes.
She knew him. He was safe, you know, and then something about Clyde, you know. And even the pictures that I see of them, and it does make it look like, I'm like, wow, they really, no wonder everybody got so wrapped up in them. Because I think that the media, and, you know, media isn't quite like back then, wasn't quite the same, but I could see how the media got caught up in their love story at that time, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the media was almost this trifecta coming together, because around this time, it was the first time that photos could be sent via wire.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, the photos of Bonnie and Clyde that they had left behind in Joplin when they were ambushed, those were in every single newspaper. So Bonnie and Clyde expanded beyond regional interest, where they were having these crimes in Arkansas and Texas and what have you, and all of a sudden people in every single state knew about Bonnie and Clyde. Mm-hmm. And it was also coming at a time during the Great Depression where people, as bad as it sounds, they were looking for an escape from their own life. Mm-hmm. And looking for entertainment, and a newspaper at that time only cost 2 cents. So it was very, very easy to get your hands on a newspaper. So I think a lot of people almost lived through the escapades of Bonnie and Clyde. And Bonnie for a while wasn't even named in the newspaper. She was just like Clyde's companion. So I think people really latched on to the fact that she was Clyde's until she was later named. And then people latched on to the fact that, oh, now she has a name. Mm-hmm. So it really was a soap opera during a time where people really were entertained by whatever was in the headlines. I mean, I guess it's not that different from today, but we have a few more methods of entertainment today.
Right. And I was thinking, I mean, none of my grandparents are alive anymore, but even if they were all born in the 1920s. So I don't even think that I could have asked them like what they remember. They would have been young, you know? So then we're going back to my great-grandparents' story, you know, like when I was thinking about that, I was like, wow, it wasn't even during my grandparents' time. It was during my great-grandparents' time that they would have maybe read about them or knew about them. So that's kind of crazy to me to put that in a, you know, like how far we are from there, you know?
Yeah. Bonnie was born in 1909, or Clyde was born in 1909, and then Bonnie in 1910. So definitely a while ago.
Yeah, and I love that picture of her with the cigar and the gun. You know, the famous picture.
It's funny that you love it, because the research that I've gone through, Bonnie despised that photo.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, she hated that it was widespread, and she even reached out to the media and spoke her case a little bit and said how nice girls don't smoke cigars. So it's funny that iconic photo is the one that's existed and is still the one that you see of Bonnie today.
Yes.
Like rolling over in her grave.
Right. And that it's funny that the cigar was the thing that bothered her.
Yeah.
You know?
Not the like provocative pose or the gun or what have you, but yeah, the cigar.
Right, because when I was thinking that it was back in my great-grandparents' time to put that, like, okay, so I knew my grandparents and I knew how they were coming into the 30s and 40s and how conservative and how, you know, and Texas, I mean, that was a very conservative state at that time. And then she, you know, those quote-unquote speakeasies that were coming in, like, it was a big deal, you know, to have a woman be that, like, what she kind of went through. Like, she started to shorten her dress length. Well, that was like my grandmothers didn't even shorten her, like it's funny to think about that, but that's how risque that was at that time, because when we think about it, we're like, so she had a short skirt on, but no,
what's the big deal?
What's the big deal? So she's wearing a short skirt, but no, because during that time it was a big deal. It was huge. And cutting her hair, I love how you went into that, because that, and that was a rebellious act also. Yes. During that time, so especially, it was specifically that cut though, right? That was like very the bob was like, I mean, women had other hairstyles, but wasn't it specifically the fact that it was like that kind of a cut or something?
Yeah, it was short. A lot of them did like the finger curl, which it takes like forever, and they have to like massage it into place into like waves. So yeah, but yeah, normally, hair is up in the Victorian age and in the Edwardian age, so it was different to have it down and to have it short.
Right. I always wondered how they did that.
I actually watched a YouTube video, because in the sequel to Being Bonnie, the sequel to Becoming Bonnie, which is called Being Bonnie,
yes,
I have a scene where I show the intricate details of how they do a finger wave. So I had to watch a couple of YouTube videos to like fully understand like how to do it.
Yeah, because even in our time, we have better stuff. I mean, what did they have to be able to, like, at least we have better, like gels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. But yeah, I did see, and I was so happy about it when I went on your website to see that Being Bonnie is out next year. So are you working on that right now?
Yes, I'm writing it. My editor hasn't even seen it yet. I'm wrapping it up, and it's fun to write. The second book goes a lot into the crime spree element,
right,
of their story, and then the ending won't be too much of a surprise.
I know that's the thing about historical fiction, but it never bothers me. It never bothers me that I know the ending, because the story is so interesting to me.
I read a book of Henry VIII and one of his wives who gets beheaded, and I knew the book was going to end with her getting beheaded, but I was just so curious to see like how the author was going to get there.
Yes.
So I'm hoping as people read my story, they're just curious about how they're going to get there. And then also with Becoming Bonnie, you probably noticed that I started 2 of the verses of Bonnie's song with Clyde.
Yes.
So the second book will have the final 3 verses, and I'm going to make you wait to get to the very final one. So hopefully that draws readers.
I love that. When I saw that, I was like, I love that. Like, she was known for that. It is so poetic of her. I mean, it's awesome. And not knowing, okay, so when I read the book, I did not know that you were writing a sequel to it. But I'm so happy that you didn't do it in one book. I'm so happy about that, because I'm so happy that you took it to that place that she became, because even the documentaries that I've watched and Wikipedia and all those other things, becoming her really was glossed. Like, it was just so glossed over. They do have more about once she meets Clyde. And, I'm sure you're finding that you'll have more to go with. But I'm so happy that it wasn't just about that, because nothing much was written about her before. So now I feel like I know her. And, and I want to be able to read more. Yeah, I want to be able to read more about her. And, I want to see your interpretation of what happens to her. So
that's wonderful. I love hearing that, because I know some people pick up the book and they're expecting the crime spree story, and they're kind of like let down, which is sad. But it's funny, because I actually sought out to tell the crime spree story first, and I got about 3 chapters in, and I was having a really, really hard time as an author making it seem believable that Bonnie was doing these things. And I was working in so much of her motivations, and I was finding that so much of what I'd written was like backstory and me telling the reader Bonnie's thoughts. So I decided, like, no, I need to stop. I need to back up. So I backed up from 1932 all the way to 1927 and decided that I wanted to tell the story of, how she got to the point of the crime spree. So people who are looking for the crime spree story, it's coming.
It's coming.
This first book really lays the foundation, I think, to truly understand who Bonnie is and who Clyde is. And Clyde, too, he has some pretty major motivations in real life for why he went on his spree. And I think it helps to understand what he went through in his youth as well.
Right. I do
like
think.
why he like is doing what he did.
Right. And that's why, and I love the title, you know, because I don't know, because I'm like that and I'm weird, but because like becoming Bonnie and then being Bonnie, I was like, oh, that is so perfect. I'm so happy that you thought, you know, when I saw that on your, I'm like, that is just perfect, because I too, when I thought that as I'm reading, I'm like, okay, she's got to die soon. She's got to die soon. We're not getting to her death, you know? Like, so I'm really, I mean, I think it's perfect.
Oh, good.
So to talk about you, okay, so you have 2 small children, correct?
Yeah.
You're outside the Philadelphia area. And so what I like to talk about for other authors to see about you, and I've interviewed one other woman. She had, get this is crazy, 4 children under 5, a set of twins.
Oh my God. I just want to fall asleep now just hearing that.
When I was interviewing, I'm like, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? But I mean, she was amazing, and her interview was so great that I was like, I love interviewing young moms, older moms that are doing it later, but young moms that are doing it now and showing like what you can do. And writing this book must be such a achievement for you, like to be able to be like, I did that and I'm doing that. I'm you know, I'm a full-time mom and I'm writing, and you know, so tell me your journey in that.
It's been a long one. So I started about 6 years ago. I decided that I wanted to write a novel, and I fumbled for a long while. Becoming Bonnie is actually the 4th book that I wrote, and the first to be published. So there's 3 that are sitting in a drawer. So it definitely took a long while to get here, and it's funny because when I first started writing in 2011, I set the goal that I would be published before I had my first child. And my first child is now almost 4. And my second child is about a year and a half. So I missed it, but I got there.
Right.
So it took longer than I had expected. But, you know, I think that's part of the game of being an author. You got to work hard, and timing makes a big difference. I mean, I would say that I got a little lucky that, you know, I queried an agent when I did, and she happened to be looking for it, and then she offered, and lucky that we found an editor who jumped at the idea of it and was so passionate about it that she had to work on it with me. So it definitely got lucky. But yeah, it took a long while to get here, and it's definitely rewarding. Maybe even more so now that my daughter is older, because I feel like not older, I mean, she's only 3.
Right.
But she gets it. Like, when she sees my book cover, she goes, oh, there's Mommy's book. And that's really touching and important to me. And she actually thinks it's me on the cover.
On the cover? That's awesome.
Yeah, so she's like, Mommy, why are you always on that book? And I was like, oh.
You're like, well, you know, I had to get the picture taken.
She's able to, like, you know, be part of the experience with me.
Yes. And
I actually got the book deal, like I found out about the book deal when I was 9 months pregnant with my son. And when I went to call my husband, who was at work at the time, I was crying hysterically because I was just so excited that, you know, all the hard work had finally paid off. And when he answered, I was still incoherent. Since I was 9 months pregnant, he thought something had happened to our son.
Right.
So I hear him in the background, like, gathering stuff off his desk at work, and then I hear him, like, running down the hallway, and I'm still crying. And then finally I was able to regain composure and be like, no, like, the baby's fine, you know, I'm just having a book baby. So it was kind of a fun memory after my husband was able to, you know, collect himself that everything was fine with our baby.
Right. That's such an awesome moment. I mean, and then, okay, so you get the book deal. How much of it did you have written by the time you gave birth to him?
So the book was fully written before I had the book deal.
Okay.
But the timing was funny because my editor gave me her revision notes right before my son was born. So I spent the first couple weeks of his life editing.
Yay!
So it was literally like typing with one hand, nursing, typing more.
Wow.
It was, it's funny because I feel like I blacked out a little bit because I don't really remember those first weeks too well, but my son is still with us and the book got done, so it must have happened. I mean, I just don't recall it happening.
I think all mothers say that. When I look back on, my children as babies, it's like their first 3 months, I'm like, I know it happened.
Yeah.
If I have some pictures somewhere, maybe I can, but you're kind of walking around in a daze anyway. And then you're trying to edit, trying to think when you're on like little sleep,
Mm-hmm.
So the notes you're getting, I'm sure it was just like, okay, wait, let me think. I can't think, So,
yeah.
But
it was challenging, but it worked out.
Well, your editor did. I mean, the cover is just amazing. I love this cover so much. And you were so blessed because I see cover. Well, first of all, people can't tell, but it's embossed, which is, even an extra special touch for me. I like that. But, and in the gold. And some people, some authors don't get as lucky about covers. Like, I have to say.
I got really lucky. They really nailed it. They actually did a photo shoot over in London. So no one else will have that girl on the cover. And she's actually going to be on the second cover, too, which is great. So they'll be...
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so,
they told me she
really...
will be. So, yeah, I can't wait to see the second cover. But, yeah, I got really lucky. As soon as I saw it, I loved it.
Right. I know.
And it was like this moment where I was like, thank goodness, because authors really don't have much say on their cover. I mean, I'm sure if I despised it, I could have, had my agent do a little fighting for me, but it did not need that.
But I know some authors, after interviewing a lot of authors, like this one woman, she had to read, she was like on her fourth cover still, like rejecting. And, it's not an easy thing, which I think I always had an appreciation for them. But I think now that I interview authors, I have more, because I know that it's not always an easy thing. It's not always an easy fit. And I go back and, I'm a hardcover person anyway. So it's like, for me, this is part of my library. Like, and I love that it's beautiful.
Oh,
so, that's just awesome. So, okay. So we were talking about your kind of book tour signing thing. So for anybody out there who's in this area, they won't see this video in time to go recent, but this book just came out in May. You're right. I mean, it just came out. So you are right in the beginning. Are you thinking of anything for the summer, or, do you have anything planned?
I'm going to a couple book festivals. I have one this weekend, but I'm not sure this will be out quite yet.
Yeah.
That one's Gaithersburg. I have one, I'm going to the Queen's Book Festival at the end of the month. And then I will be doing a couple panels at the Writer's Digest conference in August.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that it's really awesome. I see a lot on Facebook where authors will get together and do like a virtual book tour. Like, that's become fun. And I know, because especially for you have young kids, you can't be out, touring the country. I think it's amazing that you have the social media there for you to kind of, so people can see you and see you talk about it and, ask their questions. It definitely helps. But I will see you tomorrow. When people see this, they will already know that. But I'm so excited that we live close by. I wish I would have checked it out earlier, but I'm like, today I found that. I'm like, oh, that is awesome. And I'm so happy to hear about the next book. And I can't wait. But anyway, so I will have, you have an amazing website, and I'll have your links listed for everybody below so they can go to your Amazon page and all that, and Facebook. And are you on Twitter?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll put your Twitter link and what? Excuse me. I didn't say. I'm Twitter. Yeah. I'm on Twitter. Like, I haven't figured it out yet. My kids are all on Twitter. I'm like, how do you do this? How do you tweet? I like Facebook. It's easier. But
yeah, Facebook is easy.
I think it's easier. So anyway, thank you so much, Jenni. I am so happy to meet you, and I will see you tomorrow.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.